So in here we've got the new field watch from one of my favourite brands, Vair. And Vair have done quite a lot of field watches over the years. It's kind of how they got started. But this new one looks like something quite substantially different. This one is a new solar field watch, so pretty excited to take a look at this one. You'll find an affiliate link to it in the video description if you want to check it out. Thanks to Vair for providing this review sample so I can take a look at it here today. And yeah, let's get to it, eh? Now this one definitely takes inspiration. Well, they explicitly say it here. The Benrus Type 1, or Type I, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And that's a fairly famous watch. A kind of field diver hybrid. And that's sort of what we've got here. This is the new Vair C4 Tactical Field Solar, they're calling it. And you can see what I mean about it being a kind of mix of the two here. We do have this proper bezel, unidirectional bezel there. And as you might be able to read, 20 ATM water resistant, so this thing isn't going to be afraid of the oceans, while at the same time looking quite like a field watch as well. Now, I've always personally preferred more sleek watches, whereas this one's a little bit on the chunky side here, you can see, especially with that added bezel there. We'll get the exact sizes in a moment. But first, the basic spec sheet on this. We've got a 316L stainless steel case, and it's got an extreme blasted matte finish here, as you can see. That does match the way they've kind of pitched this watch as being pure performance, essentially. For maximum toughness and legibility, they say here. Well, that's one of the reasons you would go for a matte case like this. You can see it's almost got like a segmented pattern to it here, so it's not like a smooth plain surface. It does have a little bit of added interest on the sides, just flat up top though. Also has a screw down crown here to help with that water resistance, and this one tucks away pretty neatly too. Not completely flush fit, just because it's, as you can see, never going to quite align with the curvature of the shape at the 4 position. But there it is down there at the bottom. Now we have a 12-hour bezel on this. It's a 120 click unidirectional. Feels very, very good actually. As you can see, there's absolutely no backplay whatsoever on that, rock solid. Doesn't look the best though, but they do say this watch has insane luminescence. In fact, they say here, their lume performance rating 10 out of 10. Apparently this is the best lume they've produced, and I'd hazard a guess that because of the texture of this, that bezel is involved with that too. Doesn't say specifically here what this bezel's made of. This one has like a beady noise you might be able to hear. Almost kind of sounds a bit like a GMT bezel, but yeah, very nice as far as functionality goes. And then across the dial, we have a piece of sapphire crystal, surely. Yeah, sapphire crystal with AR coating. And the AR coating's pretty good on this one. To be honest, legibility was never going to be a trouble with this watch regardless, because as you can see there, the numbers are all pretty large, as is the overall design of everything on the dial. It almost looks like a pilot's watch actually, like a pilot diver field hybrid, all three. The movement under the hood, by the way, is a Seiko Epson VS42, which is what enables that solar recharging functionality. And you know what? You would never know, would you? I mean, this watch just looks like a quartz watch. Nothing strange going on with the dial as you sometimes get with solar-powered watches. And they're kind of keeping it covert. There's no mention of solar anywhere on the dial either. On the back of this one, by the way, we have this really flat screwed case back. Not sure exactly how deep into the case that goes, but yeah, really nice and flush there, so should wear quite flat to the arm. And then we just have the little time zone engravings around there too. Now this watch can come on a bunch of different straps, and the stock one here that I've got at least is the FKM dive strap, and yeah, it definitely feels pretty good. The only thing worth mentioning, a bit like with rally straps, is that while this style of strap is pretty darn comfortable and very waterproof, as you might imagine, the holes on this are a tiny bit further apart compared to standard watch straps. Not quite as bad as a rally strap, I don't think, from the looks of this, but it certainly does need mentioning just in case. Does have plenty to choose from though. I don't think you'll be struggling to find one. And I'll give you a quick close-up here. You'll see that those markers are constructed entirely of looms. So they're like big pieces of 3D loom essentially. So I'm expecting big things in the dark with this watch. Previous Vair watches have had pretty good loom too. You do only get that 1 tick per second there with the second hand. This one's currently on the Vair site for $479 US, which works out at about 363 Great British pounds at the time of recording. So certainly not the cheapest field watch out there. This one is USA assembled, as you can see at the bottom of the dial, which is probably some of the reason for that. And while it was inspired by that Benrus watch, I wouldn't say it looks all that much like it, actually. If anything, the case looks maybe a bit more like those titanium Timex James brand GMT watches. It has a similar sort of faceted shape there, that matte finish especially. Now you can also get this watch, this is like the steel version. You can also get a DLC coated version too, which is basically a black on black colour scheme instead. Personally, I just prefer thinner watches than this and would prefer like a more flat bezel, I think, with a smaller dial, but that's just me. You have to let me know what you think in the comment section. Now let's get the old calipers out, eh? Because online this is listed as a 41.5mm watch, which should mean it's far too big for me. I'm getting that, maybe a hair less than that, like 41.4, but pretty close. Lug to lug looks quite conservative, 48.4 indeed. And the thickness with a crystal that also, by the way, looks fractionally raised from the bezel perhaps there, just a hair above the edge. Not bad though, it still feels smooth when you push your finger across it, but with that taken into account, 12.6mm, and then without it you're looking at more like 12, maybe a hair under, maybe about 11.8. The strap width, by the way, is quite small in comparison. It looks like 20.1. So here's how it wears on my 6.25-inch wrist, which is a pretty small arm, and yeah, this watch actually wears quite compactly considering the size. Certainly doesn't wear like a typical 41.5. To me, looks and feels a bit closer to a 40mm. And also, don't know whether it's the way that the sides kind of ride up slightly, but I don't know about you, but it maybe looks not quite as bulky on the wrist as I would have expected. But yeah, still probably too big for me. And crystal isn't too bad there. It's at least like a 6 out of 10 in that regard. These crystals can often induce a fair amount of haziness. It's like the side effect of sapphire. I even saw that on the Rolex watch I reviewed. And while this watch is like a mid-tier watch in terms of price, you know, it's not exactly a cheap watch, I gave that Benrus watch a quick search online and found it was almost 2,000 quid. Yeah, so they must have reissued it at some point. It's not a brand I've ever tried before, as you can imagine, with me focusing primarily on more affordable stuff. But yeah, I just was a bit gobsmacked when I saw that. As you can see, just a flat matte dial on this one. And there's a look at the strap as well. Strap looks pretty good, and also, considering I've got such a small arm, there isn't a great deal of overhang on the end, which is nice. But those two keepers seem to do their job pretty well. But this watch also, when you buy it, you get another strap that you can choose. You've got a small selection, and they've included one here. So what have we got here? So it looks like a kind of NATO-style nylon band from the looks of this. So yeah, why don't we whip it on this real quick? Now, I do think this may make the watch a bit too bulky, but we'll wait and see, eh? Now we do have the quick release tabs to get rid of the previous one nice and quickly. And then you get the extra set of spring bars in here too, in like a little test tube. Included spring bars have got like a matte finish to them as well, which you don't see all that often. Just giving this included spring bar tool a quick go. Feels okay, at least at first. And there it is on the NATO-style nylon band. And maybe it looks a tiny bit sexier on that. And for whatever reason, doesn't feel all that much higher on the wrist. So, yeah, maybe I wrote that one off a little bit too soon. Now, the only thing I'm thinking with this watch is I do wonder if many buyers of this style of watch would kind of expect, especially at this price, some sort of like hardness coating on the outside of the case. Because, you know, you've got other watch brands like the likes of Traska and RZE who have got field style watches, not too dissimilar from this, which do come with pretty capable hardness coatings on the outside. So that's certainly something to bear in mind, though neither of those are US assembled, of course. Now, one other edge this one may claim to have is luminescence. So let's give that a run out, eh? And indeed, before I've even turned my torch on, as you can see, this one's pretty bright. And most watches, even under my studio light, don't get nearly that bright. It's usually this UV torch that does most of the work, but I guess we'll see on this one. And it's still really bright there after a fair amount of time. They're saying here that this is 3D printed C3 lume blocks, and they're definitely doing their job. you'll notice that the markers there have a slight blue tinge to them, whereas the hands and maybe the bezel to a lesser extent are a little bit more greeny. But overall, yeah, this is a super legible watch in the dark, no doubt. And at the start, this is using my normal camera settings for my low light shots. This one was clipping the camera, it was that bright. So there's a quick look at the new C4 Tactical Steel Field Watch from Vair Watches. Their new rugged, slightly larger field watch as well. I think a lot of their previous watches have been a bit smaller than this, and even the bigger ones wore maybe a tiny bit smaller than this just because it's a little bit thicker. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. It's also linked in the video description if you do want to take a look at it.